Ladies and gentlemen, there's a story behind every strong person you meet. And more often than not, it's a story filled with pain, betrayal, disappointment, and failure. But here's the twist. That story didn't end there. The person didn't stay broken. They chose to rise. They chose to turn pain into power. Let me ask you something. What defines your strength? Your victories, or the battles you survived to get there. You see, there are people out there who will try to destroy you, not necessarily with weapons or force, but with words, rejection, manipulation, or indifference. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's brutal. But the intention is the same: to break your spirit, to make you doubt your worth, to convince you that you are not enough. But here's the truth. When they try to destroy you, they underestimated one thing: your WHY. Because when you know your why, you can survive almost anyhow. The people who rise after being broken don't do it because they are superheroes. They do it because something inside them is stronger than the pain outside. They have a reason to keep going. Maybe it's their family. Maybe it's a dream. Maybe it's simply the refusal to let someone else write their story. And in the process of surviving, something powerful happens. Pain becomes fuel, wounds become wood, scars become stories. And suddenly, what was meant to destroy you becomes the very thing that defines your strength. We live in a world we're told to hide our pain, to bury numb it, to pretend it never happened. But what if I told your pain is the key to your purpose? What if the things you're most ashamed of are actually the things someone else needs to hear to find hope? What if your story, with all its mess and chaos, is exactly what will inspire someone else to stand up and fight? The people who tried to destroy you didn't see that coming. They didn't know that pain doesn't always weaken. Sometimes it refines. They didn't realize that every setback was building your resilience, that every failure was teaching you endurance, that every betrayal was sharpening your vision. You didn't just survive, you evolved. And now you are more focused, more compassionate, more fearless, more intentional. Turning pain into power doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means you use it. You use it to build. You use it to lift others who are still in their darkness. So when you look back, don't just remember what they did to you. Remember what you did with it. You chose growth. You chose courage. You chose purpose. You turned pain into power. And that, my friend, is the ultimate victory. People often believe that pain is what defines them: the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss. But the truth is, it's not the pain itself that defines you. It's your response. Because pain is inevitable, but growth is optional. When someone tries to destroy you emotionally, mentally, or even spiritually, they expect you to fall apart. They expect you to quit. But the moment you choose to keep going, something shifts. The power moves from them to you. When we face adversity, it tests not your strength, but our identity. It confronts us with a simple but profound question: why are you doing this? That's where your why becomes everything. People who have a strong sense of why, a deep reason for what they do, what they believe, and where they're headed, can withstand almost anything. It doesn't mean they don't feel pain. It means their purpose is stronger than their suffering. Think about it. The people who tried to destroy you weren't just attacking your actions, they were attacking your self-worth, your dreams, your beliefs. And yet you stood your ground. Or maybe you fell, but you got back up. And that moment, when you chose to rise, is more powerful than anything they could have done to you. That's when pain stops being punishment and starts becoming a path. There's a strength that only comes from being broken and putting yourself back together. That kind of strength doesn't just survive storms. It learns to dance in the rain. It develops a quiet confidence that says, I've been through worse. I know who I am now. The key isn't to avoid pain. The key is to respond to it with clarity, courage, and commitment. Because in every painful moment, you have a choosing to stay stuck or to step forward. The people who thrive, the ones who build something meaningful out of brokenness, they're the ones who respond, not react. And when you choose response over reaction, pervert bitterness, and growth over defeat, you send a powerful message to the world. Oh, yeah. You tried to destroy me, but I found my reason to rise. That's the moment pain turns into power. We're often taught to hide our wounds, to cover them up, to pretend they never existed. But what if our wounds weren't signs of weakness, but marks of wisdom? Every scare you carry tells a story. Every painful experience is a teacher, and if you're willing to listen, it can give you insight that no textbook or seminar ever could. The people who try to hurt you may have succeeded in wounding you, but they failed to break your spirit. And that's where your power begins. Pain has a strange way of becoming a mirror. It shows us who we are when everything else is stripped away. It reveals our deepest fears, but also our untapped strength. The wound that once made you feel small eventually becomes the reason you stand tall. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. And that is where the transformation begins. When you choose to learn from the hurt rather than run from it, you become stronger, smarter, more aware. The betrayal that shattered your trust taught you discernment. The failure that embarrassed you taught you humility. The rejection that broke your heart taught you resilience. These lessons are priceless. They shape the way you lead, love, and live. They make you someone others can trust because you're not speaking from theory. You're speaking from truth. We live in a culture that celebrates perfection, but it's the imperfect stories that inspire us the most. Not the person who's never been knocked down, but the one who got up, bruised, battered, and wiser. That's the kind of person people want to follow. That's the kind of strength that can't be faked. You may have been wounded, but you are not weak. In fact, those very wounds made you stronger. They taught you how to stand when it had been easier to stay down. They taught you how to feel deeply without letting emotions control you. They taught you empathy, perspective, and wisdom. And now, you don't just carry pain, you carry the lessons it gave you. So don't hide your scars. They are not signs of defeat. They are the marks of a fighter, a learner, a leader. And through them, you've earned something priceless, the wisdom to turn your pain into a powerful legacy. There comes a moment in every person's life when they're forced to ask you, what now? After the betrayal, the disappointment, what comes next? For some, that question leads to silence. For others, it becomes a turning point because pain, as brutal as it is, can become the birthplace of purpose. It's not just about surviving what hurt you. It's about choosing what you do with it afterward. That's where power is born. When everything falls apart, most people look for ways to escape. They distract themselves, they numb the pain, they pretend everything's fine. But the ones who truly grow are those who lean in and say, let me understand what this pain is trying to teach me. Because in every hardship, there's a message, a reason, a redirection. Purpose doesn't come from comfort. It comes from crisis. The greatest leaders, the most inspiring voices, they didn't find their calling in moments of ease. They found it in moments of pain. When something inside them broke and they decided to rebuild with intention, they didn't just recover. They reinvented. Turning pain into purpose means refusing to let your suffering go to waste. It means taking everything you've been through and using it to help someone else rise. Because there's always someone out there going through what you survived. Your story, with all its cracks and chaos, might be the exact story someone else needs to hear to believe they can keep going. That's the beauty of pain. It gives you a unique perspective. It softens your heart while sharpening your mind. It makes you more human, more real, and more capable of empathy and connection. And when you use that to lead, to speak, to serve, that's purpose. You don't need a perfect life to have impact. You need a story, a reason, a truth that comes from the depths of your experience. Your pain has shaped that truth. And now you have the power to turn it into something meaningful, something bigger than yourself. So don't wait for purpose to find you. Look into your own life. The battles, the tears, the lessons, that's where it's been waiting all along. Not outside you, but inside the pain you survived. That's where power is born. When pain finds its purpose. Survival is a powerful word. It means you made it through something that was meant to break you. But surviving alone isn't where your story ends. It's where transformation begins. The moment you decide that what hurt you will not define you, but refine you, you shift from being a victim to becoming a force. You didn't just survive, you evolved. The difference between surviving and transforming is choice. Survival can be instinctive, but transformation is intentional. It means taking everything you've been through and using it as a blueprint for who you want to become. The pain, the failures, the disappointments, they weren't the end. They were the fire that forged a stronger version of you. Pain has a way of stripping away the unnecessary. When life hurts, it reveals what truly matters. You start seeing people more clearly. You start choosing relationships more carefully. You stop wasting time on things that don't serve your growth. This clarity doesn't come from success. It comes from struggle. It comes from falling down and asking yourself, what am I going to do differently now? Every time you got back up, you changed a little. You became more resilient. You became more compassionate. You stopped reacting and started responding. You learned when to fight and when to let go. You discovered how to move forward even when your heart was still healing. That's transformation, not flashy or loud, but deep, steady, and powerful. The people who tried to break you may still be watching, expecting you to stay down. But they don't realize what's happened. You didn't just recover, you redefined yourself. And now, you carry not only the memory of your pain, but the strength it gave you. You are wiser, clearer, and more focused than ever before. A transformation doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means owning it and deciding what it will mean for the rest of your life. It means using your story not as an excuse, but as a source of strength. You are no longer who you were before the pain, and that's a good thing. You've outgrown the old version of you. So when you look in the mirror, don't just see a survivor, see a builder, a transformer, a person who turned pain into growth. That's not just strength, that's evolution. And it's yours